What this world needs is a few more rednecks, so people ain't afraid to take a stand. What this world needs is a little more respect for the Lord and the law and the working man. And we could use a little peace and satisfaction, some good people up front to take the lead. A little less talk and a little more action, and a few more rednecks is what we need. I was raised on beans and cornbread, and I like my chicken fried. Yes, I drive a pickup truck, and I'm full of American pride. I keep a Bible on my table, I got a flag out on my lawn, and I don't believe in minding no one's business but my own. And I love them Rambo movies, I think they make a lot of sense. And it's a shame old John Wayne didn't live to run for president. And I don't care what nobody says, I don't trust old Gorbachev. And I don't know who turned him on, but it's time to turn him off. What this world needs is a few more rednecks, so people ain't afraid to take a stand. And what this world needs is a little more respect for the
summer, you can see it fading fast. So you grab a piece of something that you think is gonna last. Well, you wouldn't even know a diamond if you held it in your hand. The things you think are precious, I can't understand. Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine? Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine? You've been telling me you're a genius since you were 17. In all the time I've known you, I still don't know what you mean. The weekend in the college didn't turn out like you planned. The things that pass for knowledge I can't understand. Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine? Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine? Money and I spent a lot of time. The trip we made to Hollywood is etched upon my mind. After all the things we've done and seen, you find another man. The things you think are useless, I can't understand. Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you you gathering up the keys? Have you had enough of mine? Are you reeling in the years? Stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the keys? Have you had enough of mine?
We're going to try to filter in a few more people here, and then we'll get started. Unless everybody ran off. And then is Justin Johnson in the room? Justin's the winner of the portable speaker with Marsh McLennan. So Justin, are you here? Ooh, now I can't see anybody again. Thank you, gentlemen. That's all right. Well, we will try to contact him. Okay, well, we'll get going. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed lunch and some camaraderie and visited our exhibitors. As a reminder, we have all our silent auction items in the back, so be sure to take a look at those. There's some that we're changing the pricing, so if you haven't bid, go back and take a look and try to bid and support the Water Education Foundation's scholarship fund. So thanks to the Bismarck Hotel and Conference Center for our delicious lunch today. And I hope you were able to visit with some of our exhibitors as well this afternoon. Representative Fedorchak wasn't able to join us this week because she needed to be in Washington, D.C. However, she did send us a video message, which we'll listen to right now. So, take it away.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Fedorchak, and I'm proud to be your Congresswoman in Washington, D.C. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you today. I sure wish I could be there with you in Bismarck, but my congressional work requires me to be in Washington right now. Still, I'm grateful for this opportunity to address so many of you who play a vital role in managing one of North Dakota's greatest resources, our water. A special welcome to our friends from South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana joining this year's convention. The Upper Missouri watershed binds us together, and collaboration across state lines makes us all stronger. Water is the foundation of everything we do in this region, whether it's growing crops, producing energy, or supporting the basic needs of everyday life. My background in energy taught me that Americans need reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy. And frankly, we expect it. Water is the same. When families turn on their faucets, they expect water to flow, without a second thought about the infrastructure needed to make that happen. Meetings like this bring together people like you who understand what's needed to keep our systems working. One thing I remind my colleagues in Washington is that North Dakotas manage resources better than any federal agency ever could. We have a long-standing history of balancing responsible development with environmental stewardship. It's the spirit that built the Garrison diversion and the spirit that keeps our rural water systems running strong today. Water policy also ties directly to energy and agriculture. As North Dakota continues to lead in energy and food production, we must think about how water supports those industries. We're seeing new technologies that recycle produced water from oil fields and capture it for reuse in industrial processes, reducing strain on freshwater sources. At the same time, we're growing with data centers and manufacturing facilities that require dependable water and energy supply. North Dakota's reliable and strong governments makes us competitive for that kind of investment. But only if our infrastructure keeps up with the fast pace of growth. That's why coordination between state, local, and federal partners is so essential. Whether it's the Missouri River, Devil's Lake, or local irrigation systems, these projects need significant foresight and planning. The North Dakota Water Users Association and the Upper Missouri Water Association are doing incredible work every single day. You're solving problems, innovating, and making sure water policy remains practical and rooted in real experience. The conventions you're having in Bismarck ripple all the way to Washington, and they give me valuable insight to push for policies our state needs. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. I look forward to continuing our work together to modernize infrastructure, strengthen water systems, and to keep the lifeblood of clean, safe water flowing for decades to come.
Since 2003, the architects and engineers at Ackerman Esvold have been enhancing everyday life. From response times to commute times, we've helped create critical infrastructure, enhancing highway safety, flood protection, and public education. And we're no stranger to enhancing fun, family outings, and even game time. Ackerman Esvold, working to enhance your everyday life.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you, Representative Fedorchak and Ackerman Esvold, for your support. Now it's time, if I could have Dani join me up here. We're close by, however she wants to do it. It's time for us to give you an update on your organization of North Dakota water users. Okay, here we are. We're ready to roll. So our theme this year is water, not an option, and how true is that? So on behalf of North Dakota water users, again, we're glad you could join us today. A little bit of history, again, about North Dakota water users. We were created in 1959. We're 66 years old and counting. We're a nonpartisan and nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting, developing, and managing North Dakota's water resources for all of our citizens in the great state of North Dakota. We have a wide and varied membership from water systems, flood control, water resource districts, cities, individuals, communities, flood control projects, irrigation association, etc. And everybody in here should be a member of North Dakota Water Users. So I would highly recommend, if you are not, at least an individual member, that you'd stop out in the front desk and see our ladies, and they would help sign you up. Okay, I'm just figuring out the buttons. Okay, your board of directors. We're made up of a 30-member board. There's 3 members from each of the 9 counties throughout the state and 3 ex officio members. Our officers include myself as your president. Our first vice president is Jeff Frith from Devil's Lake. Dennis Reap from Bismarck's our second vice president. And David Lang from Sterling is our treasurer and past president. Our staff includes Dani up here with me. She's our executive vice president. Jack Dwyer's our legal counsel. Julie Ellingson is our events coordinator or director. Miranda Hoffert is our CFO. Robin Persley is our graphic designer. And Annika Plummer is the executive director for the Water Coalition. So we couldn't do what we do without the wonderful staff we have. So please help me in giving them a big thank you. So last year in 2024, we developed a 3-year strategic plan that leads us through 2027. We have 3 goals. Those include advocacy, membership engagement, and resiliency. We are to advocate for sound water policy and funding at the state, local, and federal levels. Our membership engagement, which I think we do pretty well actually, I may be biased, but I think you'd all agree, we provide opportunities for members to engage with the association and the broader water community. Our water convention's a fine example of that. And then resiliency, to ensure that North Dakota water users has the resources we need necessary to fulfill our mission, both now and in the future. Our member benefits include communication. We have our bi-weekly policy updates delivered digitally to all of you. And during the legislative session, we have our weekly updates. We also have digital copies of the North Dakota Water magazine that are available to you. And you can also sign up if you'd so like to purchase the water magazine in hard copy. Advocacy is a big part of what we do, and that includes during the legislative session and the interim. We work with agencies, the State Water Commission, and National Water Resource Association. So then we have our highlights from this year, and at this point, I turn it over to Dani. So Dani, take it away.
Thanks, Mary. I will just go through a couple of highlights for 2025 and then talk a little bit about some things we're looking at for 2026. So obviously the big highlight for 2025 is our work during legislative session. There were more than 80 bills introduced that impacted water, so we were really busy keeping track of all that. There was a huge focus on funding and drainage. And the big thing I want to talk about, there was an attempt to redirect some of the oil extraction tax that goes to the Resources Trust Fund for other funding at the state government level. And this was obviously would have had a huge impact on water projects, and we were able to coalesce using the Water Coalition to develop some communication pieces with the legislature about what the impact would be if that were to happen. We were successful in beating back that attempt for this legislative session. I do think that this is a conversation we're going to continue to have with the legislature, particularly as we see term limits and new legislators coming in. They see that Resources Trust Fund is really generous when it comes to giving dollars for water projects, and folks are going to have their own ideas about how those dollars should be spent. And so we're going to have to continue to educate legislators about the importance of that Resources Trust Fund and work to maintain the current level of funding that goes into that. We also spent quite a bit of time working on both irrigation and drainage. You heard from Spence this morning. He is he's working on that study that's been funded by the legislature, looking at the economics of irrigation and drainage. And we had quite a few policy discussions about drainage and water resource district management. Spent a lot of time talking with legislators about that. And then we did host a legislative social in March, coordinated very nicely with hearings on the State Water Commission budget. So we had a really good turnout. Appreciate any of you that were able to come to that. It's always a good opportunity to go and talk with legislators about what's going on in your area at a time where they're not busy with bill hearings or trying to figure out votes on the floor. So we will continue to do that in future legislative sessions and appreciate your attendance at those. So moving to the interim, there's with 80 water bills during session, we knew that there was going to be a lot of things studied during the interim. We have quite a few legislatively directed studies that we're working with. There's 2 interim committees focused on water this year, which is a little unique. So we're bouncing between both of those committees. We have one committee that's looking at the State Water Commission's use of economic analysis for drain projects. That committee is also looking at taxation of inundated lands and wetland regulation. A lot of the information that you heard this morning from Jeff McCoy is something that they're looking at the state level. And then the Water Topics Committee is looking at managing water on a watershed basis rather than our current county model. And we did have a really good meeting with the Water Topics Committee on Tuesday talking about that and really spending some time educating legislators on our current water resource district structure and all of the advantages that that brings to the state. Additionally, the State Water Commission has a couple of important studies that we're tracking. They have hired a consultant, I think Reese talked about this a little bit, that's looking at both the finance and governance of large projects, including the Southwest Pipeline Project, the NAS project, and the Red River Valley Water Supply Project, and also looking at the State Water Commission's cost share. And so we're continuing to be engaged on those studies and looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. And then, as I mentioned, we are partnering with the Irrigation Association, a lot of ag groups, the Department of Ag, and the legislature on that irrigation and drainage study. And then other interim work, I often get questions about, are we doing enough when it comes to educating and legislating on aquatic nuisance species? So I volunteered, and I'm really grateful that our first Vice President, Jeff Frith, was willing to chair an ANS work group. So we have a work group with a lot of different entities from around the state talking specifically about the ANS issue with the goal of potentially developing some legislative requests for the next legislative session. And then we continue to work with the Department of Water Resources on permitting. I know we worked with them on some admin rules on construction and drainage permitting, and continue to have conversations with them about the water permit process for irrigators. So one of my favorite parts of the job is that we get to spend a lot of time out and about. So I just have a couple pictures on here that I wanted to throw up. It's a good reminder that I know I talk with a lot of you, and a lot of you probably see me out and about. We have a really big team that works on things, and they do have an opportunity to get out and about too, and I really wanted to highlight some of the work that they do. So you see a lot of pictures of Julie up there. Julie coordinates all of our water tours in the summer in addition to this event and our summer event. She also helps the Water Education Foundation with a golf scramble for the scholarship program. And so, as well as coordinating Water Day at the State Fair. Annika went with her on a lot of those water tours, and she was our resident photographer. She was in here like 30 seconds ago taking pictures. So if you need a picture of yourself, ask Annika. She has one, I guarantee it. And then I also get the chance to travel with the National Water Resources Association, go to some of their meetings and get to interact with folks from across the western United States. We're also working on water issues, and it's a good chance I get to hang out with the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District at those board meetings. And so you see a picture of me with a couple of those members. We were in Park City this summer and got a chance to tour the Olympic Park there, and fun fact, you can go down their bobsled track if you want to, and so we took the opportunity to do the bobsledding, which is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So looking ahead to 2026, overall, we had a very successful session when it came to legislative achievements. We know there's a lot of interest in water, a lot of appreciation from legislators on the work that we all do in the water industry. As I talked about earlier, education is going to be key moving forward as we see turnover in the legislature. And we're going to need passionate people to come and serve. That's going to be a huge need going forward, and so I want to challenge you all to think about the needs in your area. If you have a legislator that you know is going to be termed out or retiring, who's going to fill their shoes? Do you know someone, or maybe you yourself would be willing to do that? If that's something that's of interest to you, come talk to us. We'd be happy to try to help in any way we can, because we need people who are really knowledgeable and passionate about water to be willing to serve. So one other thing I wanted to mention, Mary mentioned our strategic plan. When we went through our strategic plan, we knew that we were going to have some new initiatives each year of the plan. Looking ahead to 2026, one of the new things that we're going to try next year is some policy development and regional meetings. So we're looking at some meetings out in each of the regions that water users members are from. We're going to coordinate those meetings with local board members and get out and talk a little bit about policy issues that we think are going to come forward in the 2027 legislative session and try to coordinate with members early on to develop good policies and resolutions that can be brought to this meeting and put forward to the membership for consideration at the policy and resolutions meeting that we have. So look forward to those invitations. Know that we'll be coming to you and wanting to have those conversations, and hope that you'll join us for those, and also take that opportunity to do a little bit of socializing with your fellow district members. So then I have dates. So everybody get your calendars out. We do have dates set for the summer meeting. We'll be in Watford, July, it'll be the 15th and the 16th at the Rough Rider Center there in Watford. And then we will be back here next year, December 8th through the 11th, for the 63rd annual convention. And with that, I put up there some contact information. If you guys have ideas, if you have questions, you want to talk more, please give me a call or shoot me an email. Would love to connect. With that, I would thank you for your time. Oh, and then I see Julie has put in the booklet that I am supposed to remind you all that new this year in your convention booklet, there's a survey. It's in the very middle of your booklet. It's got a yellow border on it. Fill that survey out, take it to the registration desk, and your name will be put in a drawing for free registration for a convention next year. So please do that. Okay. Yeah, I will turn it back over to you.
Thanks. All right, thank you, Dani. We've got a great team that does a lot of good things for us. And right now we're going to move on to sovereign lands regulations. So please help me in welcoming Aaron Carranza from the North Dakota Department of Water Resources. He's the director of the regulatory division, and he's going to give us a 101 class on sovereign lands. So Aaron, please come on up.
Good afternoon. Oh, come on. This is a social environment. Anyway, thank you again for the invitation to speak here today at the 62nd Annual Water Convention. Today we'll be talking through sovereign land management in North Dakota. So to start with, the sovereign lands management team at the Department of Water Resources, as was discussed earlier in other meetings, is a fairly nimble team. We have Amy Winkleman as our sovereign lands manager, who sends her regrets that she could not be here today. Also, our sovereign land specialist, Travis Thyberg, managing the totality of the program here in the state. So today we'll be kind of talking through four main points: the sovereign lands overview, the history of sovereign land in general, the management currently in North Dakota, and then the regulations associated with that management. Now, as part of the department's responsibilities, establishing the people's extent of title and all associated rights of title is a paramount duty that falls to the department. To this end, understanding the terms sovereign lands, navigable waters, and ordinary high water mark are vital. So to start with, if you can see it, I hope it's big enough, navigable waters in general are those waters that were used for commerce or susceptible to being used as commerce for moving goods through the waters at the time of statehood. So if at statehood it passed these characteristics, they would be considered navigable. Now, sovereign lands in the global term is basically those areas within the ordinary high water mark, including the beds and islands of a navigable water, lake, and stream. These publicly owned lands are managed for the benefit of the citizens of the state, current and future generations. And finally, the ordinary high water mark is that line where the action of water is frequent enough to either prevent the growth of vegetation or to restrict the growth of vegetation to predominantly wetland species. Now, these definitions are all codified either in administrative code or century code to help guide the agency. Now, a key point in these responsibilities is that the ordinary high water mark and by association the rights of the people are ambulatory, that's a funny word. It moves. The rights of the people are tied to the water feature itself and not the geographical location at any point in time. So to protect the people's interest in that water, the interest has to move with the water. Now, going back a bit further in time, the history of sovereign lands as a concept can be traced back at least to the Roman Empire. The empire recognized that the economic and defensive value in waters like the Mediterranean Sea, the Rhine River, and the Nile River, and thus developed rules to regulate their use by their populace, making sure that they were able to be used for these intended purposes when the purpose and need arose. Now, as these waters formed the main arteries for trade and travel, the idea to regulate as a right of the state then spread throughout the ancient Western world, and a lot of what we have today as a regulatory framework can be traced back to these original ideas. Now, going more towards recent era, the history of sovereign lands in North Dakota is tied inextricably to numerous landmark U.S. and North Dakota court cases throughout time. A superscript number in the presentation shows a legal reference, and there are a few, as with any good sovereign lands presentation there would be. And now at the end of the presentation, there's a listing of all those references in one place. Now, again, upon achieving independence from Great Britain, each American colony became a sovereign, or a sovereign in their own right. As sovereigns, the colonies held, just as the British Crown did, absolute right to all their navigable waters and the soils under them. New states admitted to the Union were entitled to the same rights as those held by the original colonies. Now, new states entered the Union on an equal footing with the original states, and hence title to the beds of navigable waters is founded on what is known as the equal footing doctrine, that no right would be held or be restricted. Each state would come in as equals. Now, lands received under the equal footing doctrine were not a gift or a grant from the federal government, but were conferred by the Constitution itself. Now, upon admission, each new state received, as a matter of law, absolute property in and domain over sovereignty over lands under navigable waters or within navigable waters. Now, to honor constitutional obligations and the equal footing doctrine, the United States held the beds of navigable waters in trust for the future states. This is referred to as the public trust doctrine. Today, the state of North Dakota upholds this same principle by holding the beds of navigable waters in trust for all current and future generations in North Dakota. These are public lands owned by the people of North Dakota. Now, the state, on behalf of its people, has a trust obligation to manage, supervise, and operate sovereign lands that it cannot refuse to do. As is quoted, the state can no more abdicate its trust over property in which the whole people are interested, like navigable waters, and abdicate its police powers in the administration of government and preservation of the peace. So it's a fancy way of saying it's a kind of a big deal and we can't refuse to do it. As a trustee of these lands, the state of North Dakota has an obligation for sound management on behalf of all current and future North Dakotans. Now, bringing it all home, the people of North Dakota, and I promise I will stop saying North Dakota at some point, current and future generations gained title to the lands under navigable waters as an incident of state sovereignty and statehood. Now, as we look at the history of sovereign land management by a state agency, it has shifted over time. Most recently, the Board of University and School Lands had full management responsibilities from 1977 till 1989. And during the 51st Legislative Assembly, the trust management responsibility was split. The Board of University and School Lands then and now hold trust management over oil, gas, and related hydrocarbon mineral interests associated with sovereign lands. And the Department of Water Resources, then the State Water Commission, was tasked with trust management over surface interests and all minerals except oil, gas, and related hydrocarbons. The North Dakota Supreme Court has interpreted that the public trust doctrine imposed on the state the duty to manage sovereign land to foster not only the public's right of navigation, but also other important aspects of the people's public trust interest, such as bathing, swimming, recreation, fishing, as well as irrigation, industrial, and other water supplies. Now, for those not familiar, this map shows the 17 currently claimed waters in the state that have thus been determined to be navigable. As a reminder, the department has a responsibility and authority to identify and manage on the public's behalf all lakes and rivers in the state that were navigable at statehood. The one caveat to that is that at the time of statehood, these waters were not identified as a nice list that was passed to the state in 1889 and then forevermore held. So we have to oftentimes ask this question and evaluate and do research to make sure that our trust obligation is being fulfilled for any waters that would meet that bill. Now, the sovereign land mission in general of the Department of Water Resources is to manage our sovereign lands for multiple uses that are consistent with the public trust doctrine and in the best interest of present and future people who live in North Dakota. Now, the North Dakota Supreme Court has provided guidance as to what types of uses and interests are covered under the public trust doctrine, as we talked earlier. So again, simply right of navigation, right for bathing, recreation, irrigation, etc., and other interests like natural, historic, aesthetic, and scenic. Now, if you wanted to complete a project, either partially or wholly within an ordinary high water mark of one of the 17 claimed water bodies in the state, you need a permit from the department. At minimum, other permits and permissions may apply. North Dakota Administrative Code outlines much of the permitting process, including the exception for the need for permits for certain boat docks and water intakes. Now, from a procedural standpoint, an applicant would fill out the state form as shown here, send it to the department. The department would then initiate a up to 30-day solicitation of views comment process with state and local agencies and partners, and then review the comments received against the, I believe, 11 identified uses in administrative code as to whether or not that project complemented or infringed upon any of the identified rights of the public. Now, for those recreating, good news, you don't need a permit, generally. Large gatherings may not apply. As noted earlier, the public has certain rights associated with all sovereign lands. And to aid in understanding these rights, the department has developed and deployed the show and sign here recently to areas of heavy recreational use. This helps make clear both to the recreating public and adjacent landowners and law enforcement what is and is not allowed. Now, with this valuable trust asset comes great responsibility. So sovereign lands are your lands, the people's lands, and proper management means we can all access, recreate, and enjoy these waters for generations to come. As shown here, this is a prime example of what these types of assets are meant for. Right? There's no need for permissions, private landowners fencing in these areas. These areas were meant to be recreated and meant to be maintained. Their navigability was meant to be maintained, and that's exactly what is happening. Now, to sum it all up, all good presentations end with citations, and so these are the legal citations of what we covered here today. I believe there are far more if you go into the weeds that were not covered, but for those type of questions, I would defer to our agency's general counsel, Jen Vertigo, for any and additional questions regarding the legal nature of sovereign lands. Thanks, Jen. With that, thank you for the opportunity to present. Thank you for the opportunity to share the information about sovereign lands, and I can stand for any questions as time allows. So thank you.
Well, thanks again, Aaron. Appreciate it very much. Good information for all of us. We're kind of ahead of schedule, so that means we may get done early. Next up is going to be Jeff Gooss. I hope Jeff's here and ready to roll. We're excited to have Jeff with us today from Wheelchairs and Walleyes. The group is dedicated to fishing without limits, making fishing and boating accessible to everyone regardless of mobility or adaptive needs. So Jeff, if you're in the room, if you could come up front. Maybe I'm introducing him too soon. Well, cue me up some music and give me a couple minutes to go find Jeff. How's that? Okay. Well, I guess while we're waiting, I'm just going to go ahead and say thank you again to our sponsors. We couldn't do the conference without them, so I'd like to announce our sponsors one more time. For the day, we have water champions include A2S, Ackerman Esfold, Houston Engineering, Inc., Moore Engineering, North Dakota Department of Water Resources. Our water partners include Apex Engineering Group, Bar Engineering, Bartlett and West, Black and Veatch, the Bismarck-Mandan Convention and Visitors Bureau, Devils Lake Boyson Joint Water Resource Board, Onsted Twitchell PC. Our water supporters include Chevron, HDR, the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund, North Dakota Rural Water Systems Association, Vogel Law Firm. Our friends of water include Ag Country, Farm Credit Services, and Farm Credit Services of Mandan, Karstensen Construction, Inc., Dakota Supply Group, and Minnesota Valley Irrigation in Bismarck. So again, thank you to our sponsors. And with that, I guess we'll just wait for a few minutes until Jeff finds Jeff for us. So thanks. Okay. Well, just hang on here a little bit and we'll see if Jeff shows up for us. What else can I tell you? Be sure to bid on our silent auction items. We'll get done early. I don't know if the bar will open early, but we do have some upcoming meetings this afternoon. Final adoption for the rules for our resolutions will be downstairs starting at 3:30, sooner if we get done sooner. We have the North Dakota Water Users Board of Directors meeting is 4 p.m. We're meeting in the governor's room. That's right off the front desk by the front door. Tonight's social starts at 5:30 in the courtyard, and our awards banquet, is at 6:30 in the Grand Pacific room. Remember to keep bidding, as I mentioned, so you have a few minutes if you want to walk around and look at our silent auction items, and be sure and purchase your 50/50 and grand prize raffle tickets. All proceeds for all of this goes to the Dushinsky-Jameson's Water Resource Scholarship Fund. So be generous in your support. And remember again to complete your surveys that are in your little pamphlet, and they'll pick one as a winner, and that person will receive a free registration for the 2026 convention. And we're still waiting for Jeff, so. I'm gonna say cue up the music again. Okay, thanks. Don't run off.
Why does it always seem
All right, we found Jeff. So we're excited to have him with us this afternoon to talk about wheelchairs and walleyes. This group, again, is dedicated to fishing without limits, making fishing and boating accessible to everyone, regardless of their mobility or adaptive needs. So with that, please help me welcome Jeff.
Well, I guess if you're not early, you're late. So, anyways, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for inviting me. I will say this, since I'm the last speaker, the good news is when you are the last speaker and you have prizes to hand out, you kind of are able to give 3 and 4 times the amount. So everybody gets $1,000. Just kidding. So, anyways, my name is Jeff Gooss. I founded an organization called Wheelchairs and Walleyes. What I'll do to start is there's a short video to be able to watch, so you can kind of get an idea as to who we are, and then I'll kind of go into a little bit more detail.
There was this young boy named Keegan. He's quadriplegic. He's in a motorized chair. His mother is there, and when we went up the ramp, he was just bawling, overcome with joy. When he came back from the trip, you could not take the smile off of his face. That was the most emotionally moving experience I have ever felt in my entire life.
I absolutely love to go fishing. I can't imagine if that was ever taken away from me, that I couldn't get into a boat.
Using the ramp, it's kind of like a little mini roller coaster, I guess. Right down into the boat, it's so easy. Much easier than having somebody lift me in.
Anyone's world could change any day. You or I could get in an accident, be using a walker or something, maybe have to go through some physical rehab, and we wouldn't be able to get out fishing for an entire summer. This changes that.
Keep turning.
When it comes to the mission of Wheelchairs and Walleyes, is really to allow people to enjoy the world both inside and out, regardless of whether they are in a powered chair or in a walker.
We hear stories of people saying, my father hasn't fished for 5 years. He used to love to fish, and he hasn't been able to get out now that he's older and can't get around as well.
Somebody who tears their Achilles, somebody who breaks their leg for a couple weeks, and you still want to get out there and fish.
This is going to help veterans who have been injured. It goes beyond just kids in wheelchairs. This is everybody.
These work for pontoons or boats. Everyone gets to get out and fish.
These ramps aren't placed right down in the busyness. They're off to the side where people can have time. You don't have to worry about the push and pull of people getting in and out of the ramp. And then when you're ready to go hit the water, go do it. It's in a different spot.
It's going to give dignity to a lot of people who feel like they've lost it and they become burdensome.
All of this accessibility is so important. Not feeling like a burden, and they want to have a taste of that independence.
I caught my biggest walleye. I reeled it in all by myself. It was exhausting. My parents kept asking if I needed help, and I'm like, nope, I've got it, I can do it. I brought that fish in all by myself. I got to say I did it.
The fish bit, and I grabbed the rod and set the hook, and I reeled it in, and I did it all by myself.
It takes a large group of people to make this function.
Obviously, these are not small projects. Wheelchairs and Walleyes need sponsorships or even just small donations.
Great partners like you and I to keep telling the story so that the next person can understand it and why they should be involved in it. You're a product of the 5 best people you surround yourself with. Well, here's a scenario where we get to be surrounded by a great thing, and it makes us better in the process.
It means that I can be more independent and get in the boat by myself and fish for the rest of my life.
We just want to see more accessibility. We want to raise awareness.
If there's a tool that helps me to be able to get them out, let's do it.
Give people the ability to just experience life.
It's everything we could hope for.
The child who's never, ever been on the water.
Other people in my situation that don't get to go fishing get to go fishing for the first time.
Like, we owe it to them.
Getting our kids out with us and being able to do it as a family.
Everybody should be able to enjoy the outdoors.
There's just no bad in this.
People just don't realize that this is a need.
This is what helps everyone do it.
These ramps, they're gonna do major things for people.
I just know that when I see these things at these lakes, I see my wife, I see me, I see Keegan, I see these people who one little inanimate structure can literally change a life. That's what I see. And I want that everywhere. I want people to enjoy or to experience that.
So that is wheelchairs and walleyes. So let me kind of come back a couple of slides. I went a little ahead of myself. So to give you a little bit of a background, like I said, my name is Jeff Gooss. And while I may be the last speaker of the day, of a couple of day conference, I will say this, that in my opinion, arguably this is probably one of the most important things you will hear over the last few days. So a little bit of background. My wife and I, we have an organization or a fishing tournament. We own a fishing tournament called the Dakota Walleye Classic. And we have anglers from all over the region that come fish our tournaments. And my wife is my fishing partner. She's, you know, I would fish with her over anybody else on earth. And in running the tournament and going throughout the country fishing, I started looking at ramps, and I started questioning, you know, just kind of something nagging in my head. What happens? What happens when you don't have the ability to get up onto a boat? What happens if you are in a cast or in a wheelchair or in a motorized chair? What happens? And it just started to nag at me. And then I was on Facebook one day, and I saw a video come up, and it was a little video part of a Paralyzed Veterans of America, PVA, fishing tournament in Chamberlain, South Dakota, 19th annual tournament. And I caught my eye, so I started watching it, and I watched them take these lifting straps, and they put them underneath the chairs. And then they hooked them onto construction equipment. And then they lifted the chair up and they set them in the boat. And my initial thought was, hey, cool, these guys get to fish, right? And then it hit me. And it hit me hard. Wait a minute. These are our nation's heroes. These people literally sacrificed their body, And the best that we can do in the year of, at this time is 2024, is construction equipment. That's who we are. And I looked at my wife. Not in my state, not in my county, not in my town. Will not happen as long as I breathe. Will not. And at that moment, I said, you know what? I'm going to figure something out. Don't know what, don't know how. Now, my background, up until 2 years ago, I was a narcotics detective. Know nothing about building equipment. Know nothing about ADA specs. Know nothing about navigating the Army Corps of Engineers. Nothing. The only thing that I knew was that in today's day and age, that's wrong, period. So then I looked at our lake, Lake Sakakawea, third largest man-made reservoir in the United States, 170 plus miles in length, 1,330 change miles worth of shoreline. On the entire south side of Lake Sakakawea, when I say the entire, I mean literally the entire south side of Lake Sakakawea, there is not a single, was not a single ADA accessible loading facility for anybody in a wheelchair, not one. On the north side of the lake, there was a couple of ramps that the person in the chair could get close to the boat, but they still needed the ability to actually get help. And so I said, wait a minute, you're telling me that we have the third largest man-made reservoir in the country, and we have less accessibility than our local Dollar General. Let that sink in. One of our largest resources, one of our largest abilities, for outdoor recreation, that, again, is the best that we could do? No. And so I sat down and I started to just draw. What did I need to happen? What did I need to do? How did I need to make it work? And then I realized, okay, this is going to be a lot bigger than me, a lot bigger than my weekend checkbook, and so I'm going to figure this out. So I then decided, okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to figure this thing out. I'm going to get it built, and then I'm going to donate it to our community. This was February of 2024. Now, mind you, again, didn't know any processes whatsoever. All I knew is that it was going to happen. I was so confident that it was going to happen that I actually went and set up the tournament date, the unveiling, you name it, we had already had it set. And what I found, once I started to kind of get this stuff together, I started drawing some sketches and whatnot. I called a couple friends, different engineering people, and I know that AE2S is, I don't know if they're still here, but I know they did some stuff, sponsor the stuff. AE2S seriously needs a pat on the back. Because when I contacted them, they jumped at it immediately. They dedicated a team and they said, well, let's figure this thing out. What do we got to do? And we started contacting people. And we contacted Verity Homes, which is in Bismarck here, a Superior Walls of North Dakota. They're a precast concrete company. And what we started doing is we started just kind of putting stuff together. What do we need? How do we need it? Well, then I start figuring out how am I going to get people in the boat? And so then, of course, I started having to research all over the country and Canada to try to find something. But what ultimately came about was which is arguably the most inclusive and detailed lift and ramp assembly for mobility challenged individuals in the country, hands down. Now, when we came about this, as you see, there's a couple of drawings. This is one of our initial sketches from AE2S. What it essentially is it's the most over-engineered human loading ramp in the history of human loading ramps, quite frankly. It's a roughly 37-foot long structure. It has to be, of course, ADA compliant, so it's got a 112 slope. It's got all the proper handrails. And then on top of that, you've got two pieces of equipment, one of which is a large solar-powered chair. And what that chair is designed to do is to be able to actually lift the person up and set them into the boat. And it only takes two people, the person in the chair and whomever is with them. The other piece of equipment is what's called a platform lift. This was probably one of the most difficult things to figure out, because when you're looking at recreational boating, you have two different types of boats. Really, you've got your fisherman boats, and then you have your pontoons. Well, it's one thing to get someone into a fishing boat. It's an entirely different thing to get someone into a pontoon. What a lot of people don't realize is that when it comes to a pontoon, they don't have standard doorways. They can be all over the place, 19 inches to 35 inches. And so what we ultimately did is we figured out a way, we found a company to make us a special lift, platform lift that allows them to roll up the ramp, and then they are able to go up even higher, and then there's a drop deck that drops down, and then they are able to roll onto the boat, or onto the pontoon. And essentially, that's what we came up with, and that's essentially how it worked. Now, this is obviously the chair. If you see the boat that's next to it. Now, the big thing is this is not on the water, okay? Reason why we didn't want it on the water is because, well, I mean, let's just face it. You have someone who's in a chair, and you don't want them to be potentially in the water, falling. This is designed. When I came up with this was something that said we want the 80-year-old, husband and wife in their 16-foot Alumacraft on a Sunday who just wants to go out and go fishing in the bay. We want them to be able to do it. And so that's kind of how I focused everything. Well, got everything together. I don't know if anybody from the Army Corps of Engineers is in here or if you've ever worked with the Army Corps of Engineers, but I can tell you this. Retired cop, no idea how to deal with the Army Corps of Engineers. This was so well received in the recreational industry and even with the Army Corps of Engineers. From the moment that we put in for our permit to permit approval, 14 calendar days. That is how long it took us to get a permit approved for the Army Corps of Engineers. As you all know, if you've dealt with them, good luck even getting a response to an email in 14 calendar days, let alone a permit to build a concrete structure on federal government land. The second project that we did took 7. As we moved through this project, we realized that, quite frankly, this was something that was so unbelievably needed that people were clamoring at trying to get involved. The key takeaway to this is a community's project. We don't go to Walmart and ask them for money. We go to John Doe's Concrete Company, Jane's Steel Company, people who are in that community. Because what happens is they own it. When I say they own it, it's not financially, but it's their community. And so as we went through and we got the very first one, we dedicated the first one to Beulah Bay on July 24th, I believe it was, last year. It was on a Thursday. Cost us roughly $150,000. And we were able to get it dedicated to Beulah Bay. That following week, now mind you, this was just something to try to do for our community. That following week, we had gotten calls from other entities. Progressed further, going a few more months later, we ended up getting Devil's Lake. If anybody's ever been to Devil's Lake, spectacular project. That thing went from just a ramp to a parking lot and a whole other host of things. As we have gotten further, we just did Hazen Bay. Next year, we have the car body in Mandan, the boat ramp. We have Knifel Bay in Burleigh County. Those are 2 that are approved. And then we are also working with Fox Island and Kimball Bottoms. Right now, you figure this, February of 2024, we had no accessibility. Right now, North Dakota, the flyover state, is the leader in boating recreation for mobility assisted or mobility challenged individuals in the country. There is no state anywhere that has the accessibility that we have. Now we're talking going 2.5 years and we went from 1 to 3 and now we'll be at 7. We have projects literally from Buffalo, New York, all the way to Missoula, Montana. All over the country. I think we have about roughly 15 next year. Now, I'm not here to, tout our own horn or whatnot. The reality is this. you guys, you leaders, county commissioners, people on water boards, leaders of rural water systems, one thing that I've learned is that, again, this is not something that has to be sold. I guarantee you, unless you were in the know, 95% of you guys didn't even know that there was no wheelchair accessibility on Lake Sakakawea. And so that's what we found, is we found people that are, run outdoor organizations who go, I never knew this. Oh my gosh, I feel like an idiot. No, it's just that we as a society have just become so focused on momentum for the able-bodied world that we forgot about the voiceless. Because one thing that we remember is the voiceless, they don't want to be a burden. The reason why they don't stand here and shout is because they don't want to be a burden. They don't want to have someone help them. They want to have the ability to do it themselves. And so that was the big takeaway for Wheelchairs and Walleyes, is we have since learned that when it comes to these projects, when it comes to stuff that has to do with the accessibility, the world of accessibility, just stop. Look around. Ask yourself a question. I don't have a family member that needs adaptive needs, but when you stop and you just look and you realize what we have, what we don't have, or what we have available to us, and all individuals with adaptive needs is they just honestly, they want to be able to do the same thing. They just want to be able to do it themselves. They don't want to have a hand up. And so when it comes to here, one of the big important parts of being here, we're small, grassroots, husband, wife, kids, we're all volunteer. Everything that we do is just kind of pound the pavement and make it work. But we are determined. We are determined to change the national landscape of wheelchair accessibility for individuals with adaptive needs. Now, this one here, this is the North Arm Public Use Compound. This is actually Lake Minnetonka in Minnesota. Minnesota DNR actually reached out to Hennepin County and said, you need to get a hold of these people. That's, again, and it's not even really about us. It's about the mission. It's about what it is that we're doing for the community. Shields, partner in Shields, they came out just recently, and they have said, hey, anything in the Bismarck-Mandan area for the next few years, we want to fund your chairs. So this was a chair that we had, that was manufactured. That's actually going to be going to the Mandan ramp in the spring. One thing that we have found is that when people find out about this, first thing they do is, how can we get involved? What can we do? Tom Wynn, if anybody follows any fishing, Tom Wynn is the National Walleye Tour champion, 2-year champion. And he just showed up to our first event. Literally just showed up to look around because there was a big tournament in town. He was fishing our big tournament. He has now become one of our largest or most vocal proponents of this. He's out there. He actually has taken children without even us, taken their families. He takes them out fishing. This is a world-class professional walleye angler who's taken his time to take children that take them out fishing. And so what we are looking at, you guys, you leaders in this industry, is we want you to just, when you're making your designs, when you're thinking things through, when you're designing, whether it be waterways or you're designing any type of infrastructure projects, remember this: ADA compliance or ADA requirements are minimum requirements. Minimum requirements. That doesn't mean they always work. So look at the ground, look at what you're doing, look at the topography, look at things and say, what if? What happens if? That's what is the most important, because when you do that, you will find that, wow, we are, number one, we're spoiled. And number two, there's a lot of people out there that are not able to do the things that we can do. 12.2% of our population has an ambulatory disability. An ambulatory disability is somebody who is unable to, they either need a type of assistance or they need assistance to be able to walk upstairs. So they physically cannot stand without assistance. 12.2% of our population. This is actually the platform lift that we're talking about. This cool contraption, but this thing works. It allows people to get into pontoon boats. Again, that's just a picture of the chair of what it looks like when they lift over. That's going to that's at Beulah Bay. This is a cool story. This girl right here, she's in an empowered chair, and she came to our Hazen Bay project. Her grandfather came up afterwards, and he's like, "Hey, can I go with my granddaughter?" We said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." He says, "Okay." He's like, "Can I use the chair?" "Yeah, of course you can." Then we realized he had one leg. Then we realized, after talking to him, that he hasn't fished in 3.5 years because he couldn't get into his boat. So he gets to go in with his granddaughter on the water, and as they're fishing, his line catches. When he gets the fish on, he hands it to his granddaughter, and he watches his granddaughter reel in her first walleye. Now, while she's reeling in the walleye, when they're done, he shares a story. He tells our boat captain, because one of the things I didn't go into is when we do these dedications, we do mock tournaments for children who've never fished or can't get on a boat. So we basically take 15 pro anglers and we take 15 children and we go out and give them a huge charitable tournament of a lifetime. The grandfather turned to the boat captain and shared a story. The story goes that he, 3 years prior, lost his leg due to medical challenges. But he's fighting terminal leukemia. And the only thing he wanted to do was watch his granddaughter catch a fish. That was it. I guarantee you there's fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers in here. I would argue that you could probably look at him, he could probably look at God and say, "Okay, you can take me now." The only thing that was stopping him from being able to take his granddaughter fishing was the ability for him to get into a boat. Think about that. So this is not something that's just a minor convenience. This is something that's literally life-changing. This man got to watch his 13-year-old daughter in a powered chair, or 13-year-old granddaughter in a powered chair while he's got terminal leukemia. And the only thing he wanted to do was watch her catch a fish. This program allowed him to do that. And this program only survives when there are leaders like you, forward thinkers, engineers who say, "Hey, it's a duty upon us to try to help in any way that we can as well." Mrs. Nelson. Miss Nelson, I'm probably running out of time, so hopefully I don't get kicked off stage. Mrs. Nelson, her husband, this is Miss Nelson in 2022. Her husband contacted me January of 25. I was in a conference in Wisconsin, and he said, "Jeff, I need help." He says, my wife injured herself 3 years ago. She has never been able to fish since. Can you help me? Yep, I will. He said, how? I don't have a clue, but I'll figure it out. I said, come summer of 2025, you will be with your wife fishing in a boat. I did not realize how difficult it was to get to Wisconsin to get someone fishing in a boat that's in a wheelchair. This is here now. August of this year, I had to go out there to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin to be able to get approval to build a ramp assembly out there. But I told my wife, I said, we're not going out there unless I can get her in a boat. I made her a promise. So what ended up happening was we ended up buying a trailer, modifying a trailer, going to Hazen Bay, stealing their solar-powered chair because I don't have enough money to buy my own. We didn't steal it, we borrowed it. Took all of that, loaded it up, drove to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, for the first time in 3 years, we got her fishing with her husband. She had been fishing with her husband for 30 years. She stopped in 2022. That picture right there is the first time she had been fishing since 2022. Those are the stories. That's what basically Wheelchairs and Walleyes is all about. It's giving people access that they don't normally have access to. Like I said, we are just a small organization. Thankfully, we were blessed recently this last year with the Flint Fire Starter Award from North Dakota Tourism, Governor Armstrong. I thought, hey, 10 months, in 10 months from operation to award, that's pretty darn good. But I'm not a salesman. The reality is this. This is like being the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus at the same time. It's literally not possible to have PR. And if you can't get behind this, you don't have a soul, so we don't want you anyways. I mean, that's just a fact. So I'll just wrap up with this. When it comes to your guys' decisions in rural water, when it comes to your guys' decisions in anything that you do, even if it's not recreation, even if it is just walkways or pathways or right-of-ways or whatever it may be, when you guys are making these decisions, please take the individuals with adaptive needs into mind and don't just go based off of minimum requirements. Think about your child, your mother, your father, your grandparent. Because I can tell you right now, the vast majority of the individuals that use these ramps right now are paralyzed veterans. That is the vast majority of the people who use these, paralyzed veterans. And if there is one thing, I don't know how many fishermen you have in the audience, if there's one thing that's able to clear your mind, to give you some, clear your head of any mental health concerns that you have, is get a day on the water. So that's my pitch. Wheelchairsandwalleyes.com. We have Facebook. Again, very small mom and pop facility. We are 100% volunteer, 100% donation driven. Please, if you have time, look us up. If you don't, if you have someone you know who might be interested in whether it be volunteering or they just want to go fishing, let us know, and we will happily help in any way we can. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Well, again, thank you, Jeff. Let's give him another round of applause. So everyone can fish or go fishing, not necessarily catch them, right? Okay, so a few announcements here. We will move forward with adoption of resolutions, and that'll be downstairs, starting at 3:30, but as soon as you can make your way down there, we will get going. So we'll do that. Then North Dakota water users, our board of directors meeting was at 4 o'clock, and again, that's in the governor's room. Our socials at 5:30, dinner's at 6:30, and that'll be here in the Pacific room. They'll be changing this out, so you can look at silent auction items, but if you're just visiting, we should take it out so that they can reset the room for this evening. Remember your surveys. And I think that'll do it. So thank you very much, and we'll see you tonight.